Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Medical Threat Reduction Challenge informational webinar. My name is Katie Bornfleth. I am the Associate Director of Marketing and Comms here at Tech Connect, which is a division of Advanced Technology International, and I'm going to be walking us through the next 45 minutes. But before we do that, I would like to cover a couple housekeeping items. One, if everybody could stay on mute for the duration of the session, that just makes for smooth sailing. I know that you're all very eager to ask questions. We are eager to answer those questions for you. So we're going to actually devote a good 15 to 20 minutes at the end of the session to do that. So don't fret, we're going to answer all those things you want to know. There is a control panel on your GoToWebinar screen there. There's a little question box. If you will answer or put everything in there that you have, if you came with questions, put them in there. If they come up during the session, just throw them right in there. That's where I'm going to go grab them at the end of this webinar. So I'm going to cover a very high level of the challenge. I'm going to do the who, what, when, where, why. And then, of course, my expert panelist here is going to go into much more granular detail. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Mike Stebbins. He's the Vice President of the Medical and Threat Countermeasures Division at Advanced Technology International. He's also the Executive Director of the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Consortium, or CWMD, and the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium, or MCDC, also known as that. All right, so just to go over some basics. Why are we running this challenge? Oops, we are running this challenge to support national defense efforts, okay, to enhance medical, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear capabilities with innovation. And this is where you all come in. We're going to take you to them and bring them to you. All right, why apply? Why attend? You're going to get a free pass to Tech Connect World, which is a massive conference. Not only are you going to get that pass to Tech Connect World, that's going to give you access to all 3 days. We have 3 other co-located events that are happening at the same time. We have MOSA, that's the Modular Open Systems Approach Industry and Summit. We have the SBIR STTR Spring Conference, which is, as you know, is $4 billion annually for emerging tech. And then we have our Nanotech 2024, which is in its 27th year. So you're going to have access to all of those things with that one pass. And you're going to be able to pitch to top investment, industry, military tech scouts in person, not on a screen, in person. So that is a massive benefit. You're going to learn how you can access over $100 billion in funding through consortia who have federal contracting authority for prototyping emerging technologies. Obviously, the 50K, right? No strings attached funding. These government reps are going to be there watching you pitch your solution, and you just never know. You could walk out with your solution being the basis for future requirements someday. You're going to meet and collaborate with people just like you that are experiencing the same challenges. So it's a huge, huge networking opportunity to learn from your peers. Also, we're going to have like the cream of the crop of thought leaders in every technical subdomain you can think of. So the knowledge pool here is massive. You're going to be able to get to know consortia leadership and learn much more about the OTA model and how it works. All right, so for the challenge, there are 3 areas of interest here, 3 buckets. There's prevention, treatment, and diagnostics. If you don't see your solution under one of these buckets right now, don't worry about it. They're so vast. This is merely examples to give you a sense of what we're looking for. All right, so let's talk evaluation criteria for the pitch. There's 5 categories. There's value and impact, so the ability to make a difference, right? There's readiness. What is the ability for you to implement and pivot your solution to meet the need of the government or the consortia partner. Scalability. What is your ability to go to scale? The more versatile you are, the better it's going to be, right? And then financial viability. What is your return on investment? And then obviously your pitch quality. What is going to be your ability to squeeze everything you want everybody to know into that pitch session that you have? And that brings us to the pitch event. So the pitch event is held at Tech Connect World. This is going to be in National Harbor, just outside of DC. It's been a very successful submission process so far, but we are going to choose up to 25 finalists. Those finalists are going to be invited to come to the conference. It's kind of, think of it as like Shark Tank. So you have 5 minutes to pitch, you're going to have your slides, basic AV, and then you're going to get a 2-minute Q&A from the judges right then and there. And then we are, at the end of the sessions, going to be able to give you the winner of the money right then and there. You're not going to have to wait for that. So the award, that $50K, it's all non-dilutive, and first, second, and third place is how we're going to cut it up. So 25,000, 15, and 10. All right, so important dates to note. You have your application deadline. That's the 28th of March. Make sure you get it in. We're going to notify finalists mid-April. We're going to ask that finalists notify us to let us know, yeah, I'm coming. That's going to be late April, and then obviously we're going to have the pitch event in June. The process for submitting, very simple process. If you want to take your phones out and just take a quick snapshot of this QR code, that's going to take you directly to the submission page. You can just earmark it and fill it in later. Just make sure you do it by March 28th. And there's also the URL at the bottom if the QR code is not working for you. So just take a minute, take a snapshot. It's that simple. And if we get through this webinar today and you didn't get your answer, or you thought of something later, or whatever it may be, this is a contact you're going to want to mark as kept. Miss Laura Murphy is the senior project manager for this challenge. She knows all the ins and outs, and she would be happy to help you get to know, pre-submission, post-submission, whatever it may be. She's going to get you the info you need to know. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get our expert on the line here. Mike, one moment, and I will hand you the presenter mode. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Hopefully everybody's seeing the screen there. So I just want to go over a couple items. I'm glad that we're able to do this little informational webinar on medical threat reduction, the challenge. This is, in a sense, the second one that we've done. We did one a year or so ago, and it didn't have a cash prize with it, but hopefully the cash prize you'll find as beneficial to help get your information in front of the government, other technologists, potential investors, etc. So what I'd like to do is give you just a little bit of background on the MCDC, or the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium, who is sponsoring this challenge. So, and I'm not going to go into detail. You can go to medcbrn.org. The URL is there on the purple side of the slide. But this consortium was set up at the request of a component out of the Department of Defense, the Joint Program Executive Office for Chem, Bio, Rad, and Nuke Defense, or the JPEO, as it's typically called. And the whole idea was, let's bring industry together, and by industry I mean small and large companies, academia, nonprofits, all who have expertise in some aspect or another of medical countermeasure development, and have these entities together and able to respond and team, if necessary, on solicitations that come out through the JPEO and other DoD partners that are interested in developing medical countermeasures that revolve around prevention, detection, diagnosis, et cetera, all related to CBRN threats. So the consortium and the construct has been around since spring of 2016. To date, we've awarded 97 unique awards with over $7.6 billion of funding. So that's billions of dollars in funding that have been delivered to participating consortium members. The ceiling for the consortium or the other transaction, and that's the vehicle that's used to do the contracting, is about just a little bit over $16 billion. And to date, we've expended close to half of that. There were several Operation Warp Speed projects that came through this construct at the outset of the pandemic. And so let's jump over to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the areas of interest. And I know these have come out in several email outreaches, and Katie talked to them for just a moment, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. Really, there's not going to be a prize for each category. So we've generally broken up the categories into prevention, treatment, and diagnostics or diagnoses, which are the three main thrust areas for the MCDC. But we're looking at, for the purposes of the top 25 that come to pitch, and then ultimately the prize winners, the top three, for really the most unique technologies or maybe the most impactful. So again, I'll just reiterate what Katie mentioned about the areas of interest. These are not hard, fast areas. So if you have technology that's in the prevention space, so vaccines, vaccine platforms, improvement in terms of manufacturing capabilities, needle-free delivery, mRNA vaccines, et cetera, these are meant as really high-level ideas to provoke your thought, not it has to fit into each one of these subcategories. And the same for treatment. Just to give you an idea of what we've done, there's certainly small molecule therapies that have been worked on, general capabilities across therapeutic areas, gene-encoded medical countermeasure development, and then as well with diagnostics, we're looking at decision-making systems, diagnostic capabilities, in one case, exposure diagnosis to opioids. So if you want to get again, these are just areas of interest to let you know what capabilities or really what technologies are being developed with solicitations that come out from the government through the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. You're welcome to go to the website, medcbrn.org, and there's a page that'll walk you through every solicitation that has come out through the government. And it'll give you the title, so that'll give you a sense of what sort of technologies that the government is looking at. So when you start to go through your development of your pitch, so what's going to be submitted for consideration, and then ultimately, if you were one to get selected to pitch in person, it's really important that you look at those evaluation criteria that Katie mentioned. You have but 5 minutes to get up there and talk about your technology development. And while the actual aspects of the science, the engineering, the technology itself are critically important, I really recommend you not spend the bulk of the time doing a deep dive into the technology and the science. Really highlight what the technology is doing, what value and impact it has, in particular for the warfighter, because this consortium happens to be aligned with the Department of Defense. So if you're trying to solve something that is really not of interest to the Department of Defense, then you might get a less favorable reception. So keep value and impact to the warfighter in mind. If it is dual use, meaning what you've developed is both usable by the military as well as civilian populations, or could be commercialized, that's even better. Make sure you point that out up front. Readiness is always important. So this OTA consortium construct really works in the prototype development space. So we're not doing early stage R&D. We're doing, in terms of the technology readiness level, or TRL, we're more in the 4 to 7 range. So starting to do proof of concept all the way through prototype development, maybe even into test and evaluation. But if you happen to have something that you think is transformative that is still in the early stages, say a 1, 2, and a 3, I wouldn't recommend you choosing not to submit that. Again, it all depends on the value and the impact, but if you can talk about readiness succinctly, that's great. Scalability is always important, particularly if it's dual use and you need to use it outside of the military, and you need to scale up from, say 1 million doses to 1 billion doses. And then, of course, the financial viability. All of this is wrapped around your pitch quality. So again, I really implore you not to spend 5 minutes talking about the nuances of the science. That might come out in the questions. Talk about how your technology solves a problem, and what's unique about it relative to what else is on the market, or what else may actually be in development. And then there was one other item I wanted to bring up. If you have received funding for the work that you're presenting, particularly through the government, then it's important to indicate that in your pitch, because that shows a level of, I don't mean this to sound demeaning by any stretch of the imagination, but it shows a level of buy-in from potential funders. Even if you've gotten money from private equity or other investment streams, that's showing some indication of buy-in from another market, and that they see value in this moving forward. So I'll leave it at that. I've just got a follow-up slide. So Katie, I'll stop sharing my screen and we can go back to you and get into question and answer.
Katie's on mute, so she'll be back soon.
Okay.
All right, it looks like Katie's screen is frozen, so while she works that out, I will jump over to some questions that we got from the audience. So the first one is from Doug. Doug asked, how many finalists will be chosen to go to the event? So Doug, we're gonna have up to 20 who will have the opportunity to pitch. I hope that's helpful. Richard asked, how many applications do we anticipate? And I will say, honestly, that there's great fluctuation there, but I would say north of 150. So you can have a sense of that. Richard also asked, if an application is already complete, can it be edited prior to the deadline? And the answer to that is no, because your application is not submitted into a dashboard portal. It's sort of a click and it's gone. It's back in our database, and so if you would like to make adjustments, simply enough, you resubmit. It's not a too onerous application, but unfortunately that's the route. What I recommend you do is there's a downloadable Word document affiliated with the application. And so if you download that, fill it out, and then when you're ready and it looks perfect, then kind of copy paste the entries over into the actual form. It also ensures you're not dealing with timing issues. You can have other people look at it, you get to do all the editing that way. So no editing formally through the platform, so you'd have to resubmit. If you do resubmit, let us know, because we will delete your duplicate entry, your first one, just so there's no confusion. Someone doesn't look at that one and say, oh, the others are just, they were confused, they duplicated. So that way we're sure to get like the top final version from you. Okay, Michael asked a question for Mike. What are the TRL levels? Could you repeat those again? Desired levels.
Sure. So technology readiness levels, preferably in the 4+ range. So the type of work that happens under MCDC with the requirements coming from the Department of Defense is needs to be prototype level. So again, that could be proof of concept all the way up through test and evaluation and ready to do some small scale production. But as I mentioned, if you happen to have a transformative technology, or you think you do, that's below a TRL level 4, I recommend you submit that too, and just pay homage to the value and the impact of it, even if the readiness isn't at that high of a level. I think you'll still find good receptiveness there.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Lydia said, if we were accepted to the competition last year, are we eligible? Can we apply and compete this year? Yes, Lydia, you can. So we encourage you to do that. You know, this is a different challenge, same sponsor, same areas of interest, but different set of judges, reviewers, and you know, the money is on the line, right? There's a great prize pool. That's only part of the story. And I know Mike will reiterate this as well. I mean, the folks in the room, the judges that he anticipates pulling to the table, they're going to be stellar. So that's so much of the value right there. And we definitely wouldn't want to exclude anyone from that year over year. If you're fantastic and you still beat out the rest of the entrants, then good for you. All right, Vinyu Madhav, excuse me if I said that incorrectly, asked, can academic institutions apply? Mike, what's your appetite there?
Yeah, absolutely. We have dozens of academic institutions that are already members of the consortium, and it's not uncommon for one of them to actually be a prime on an award as opposed to simply a teaming partner. So we welcome submissions by all.
Great. All right, we have a question from Doug. Will there be a DoD representatives to possibly meet with, or is the pitch the only contact point? So I'll let Mike speak to that from a judge and consortia standpoint, but I'll say that the conference itself is chock full of DoD folks roaming the halls. So, you know, I think that has a lot to do with who you want to meet with, but they are everywhere. And so, yes, you can make that a priority for yourself. You can, you know, work hard to put yourself in front of them. And that's one of the things that this challenge hopes to do, is to put you in a position where those contacts are made just a bit easier. And if you're on the stage, even easier, because, you know, they're in the room as audience members and potentially judges. So Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of like customers on the consortia side or other DoD folks that you know?
Sure, it's really our intent to bring as many of our DoD customers within JPEO, DTRA even to the event. So because we're giving away a prize, and even though it's not DoD money, we'll probably be reluctant to put them on the panel, but our intent is to have them in the audience and let them observe, and then there's time for networking afterwards. And so this is the only, this challenge is the only event I believe that's happening at Tech Connect World this go around that is medical based. So it would just be the day of this event, but our intent is to have as many government customers there as possible.
All right, perfect. All right, Jaipreet asked, can a sensor technology that would present senior fall detection be eligible?
That's interesting. I've seen things along those lines before. It's a great technology. It doesn't necessarily fit within this space. We're looking for more chem bio threat type of technologies. But you're certainly welcome to submit it. Our idea is to try to get as many of these submissions, whether they get chosen for the pitch, up to our government customers anyways. Just we always feel it's a good idea to try to do a push from industry over to government. But I think that's a little out of scope from a CBRN perspective.
Okay, good, thank you. Ho Jun asked, if we are already accepted for a pitch opportunity for Tech Connect World, the conference, can we also apply for this challenge? And the answer to that is yes. Make the most of the overall event, right? As many engagements as possible. You want to have a booth in the expo? Great. You want to do multiple challenge programs? Great. So present an abstract or a poster, if there's overlapping opportunities for you, then we hope you get to saturate your time and make the most of it. So best of luck to you in your application. All right. Adriana asked, are pre-revenue companies welcome? So Mike.
Yeah, sure. I think scope and context is maybe most important, but we're not really looking to exclude anybody from the submission process. Again, as I stated, you're just going to have to address that from a financial viability, and of course that feeds into scalability as well. But again, if the technology is believed to have a tremendous impact, then that's what you need to highlight. I've seen many of pitches where they talk about, hey, we're pre-revenue. I certainly welcome it.
All right, great. Another question, will the slide decks be available to download? We make this recording available. It'll go on the challenge page by the end of the week, but we do not send out the decks themselves. That said, I know Mike provided contact information. If you'd like to reach out directly, there's something specific you need from the deck, we're happy to answer questions that you have and direct you to resources. Justin said, do we have to be a member of MCDC to submit to the competition?
Absolutely not. We'd love for you to be, but that is not a criteria. Part of the objective of these pitches, even though the MCDC is putting up the money, is to continue to reach out broadly to find those entities that have expertise in this space, or maybe are just hearing about it and realizing that their technology might actually fit this space. And so it's open to all comers. Should you decide at some point that you think joining the MCDC might be of your best interest, me or anybody on our team would be happy to have that discussion with you, but it's absolutely not a requirement.
Absolutely, great. And on that topic of membership, Ronald asked, do we need a membership in any agency in order to apply? Is there any kind of bar or threshold?
Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Again, we're looking for unique technologies that might be able to solve DoD requirements in the CBRN threat environment from a medical standpoint.
Great. All right, Doug asked, will there be programming or seminars relevant to medical threat reduction? So beyond, we're speaking beyond the challenge now. I'm sure this speaks to that saturate your conference little talk that I gave. There will absolutely be medical programming. There will absolutely be biotech programming. It's a substantial vertical at this event. This is a very multidisciplinary event. So for that reason, I don't want to say specifically yay or nay that it would apply to your work. I will say that the technical program is going live today. You can get on to Tech Connect World's website, and I'll post that in the chat. You can see kind of what are all the technical areas that we will explore on site. And then there's also a business program that will launch in another couple of weeks. So you can see even more then and have a sense of how you want to build your time and your day. But the reason we're hosting this challenge at this event is there is super relevant overlap to the kinds of work that others are doing, whether it's research or commercial. And so we will encourage you to look into the program and see how does your work overlap there and what makes the most sense for you. Speaking of multidisciplinary, Mike, are topics covering more than one focus area preferred?
I would say not preferred necessarily, but certainly welcome. If you overlap in more than one area, then to me, the value you should highlight is you may be solving more than one problem with your technology, and that should be a favor to the review panel as well as the military. So if you have it, bring it. I don't think it one way or another is good or bad, but again, it's all about how your technology arrives at solving a problem, and the more problems, the better.
Okay, great. We have another question from Doug. On which day will the pitches take place? So the conference runs from June 17 through 19. The pitches will likely take place either the 17th or 18th. We haven't landed on the exact day, but we will soon. And it'll be probably, you know, roughly a 10:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon kind of time commitment. We give breaks, we give, you know, time for you to grab lunch. It's not a total grind. We are excited about all the pitches, but we don't expect you to sit through 20 straight in a row. So we spread it out. We create networking opportunities throughout the day, chances for you to meet peers and other innovators. So hopefully that helps. Mike, are there any restrictions on the type or size of teams that can apply for the challenge?
No, not at all. Again, no. Just for a little bit of context, the types of projects that are awarded through MCDC, I'm not sure we've had one out of the 92 that were led and conducted by a single entity. So every case has multiple teaming partners. Again, I would just keep in mind as you develop your pitch, should you get there, to not spend so much time on that to the degree that it bolsters the value or the scalability and the impact. Certainly mention your team. You want to give them, you know, due deference, but whether you're a single innovator looking for government funding or investment funding, or you're already a coalesced team that is making progress, all comers are welcome.
Awesome. All right, how will intellectual property rights be handled for innovations presenting in the pitch event?
It won't be handled. So this is an open forum, so to speak. So we implore you to not share confidential information or information that hasn't been protected. We won't share this information with anybody that's not in the room outside of perhaps the government. We're not looking to take advantage of any intellectual property. You know, there isn't a requirement against which you will be pitching to. And so, you know, as long as you are presenting information for public consumption, you should be okay.
All right, great. Well, I think that pretty much does it in terms of questions from the audience. If you have your hand raised, if you have any other questions, I'm going to call this a last call. And Mike, while we do that final roundup, can you speak again about maybe the number of solicitations that the consortium looks at annually or has going now, and sort of what that funding authority, what's the power of being part of that consortium?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been around for about 8 years now, have issued 92 awards. So that was at least 92 distinct solicitations that have come out. Probably more than that. Every now and then a solicitation gets canceled if the government, you know, pulls funding or maybe their priorities have shifted. That's fairly rare, but it has happened. And in a lot of cases, some of these solicitations or requirements result in more than one award out to different entities. But the government in general comes up with the requirement as aligned with their strategic plan and their needs that year, and has funding against it. We probably see on the order of 5 to 10, sometimes 15 or more requirements come out annually. And as they go through the process, it probably takes a good 6 to 9 months to make those awards. And so I think the value of being a member of the consortium is not only insight into what's coming out from a government perspective, if you're in the medical countermeasure development space, but also the ability to interact with others that are in that space. So you can look at that from the standpoint of potential business to business opportunities, as well as teaming opportunities, and some have even looked at it as an opportunity to spread the awareness of their technology and maybe attract a partner that can acquire their company if that's of interest. So great networking opportunities as part of the consortium.
Yes, absolutely. I think that power cannot be overstated. It's pretty incredible. We did get a few more questions in, so let me just go ahead and pitch those over to you. So I know we've talked a bit about TRL, but just to be clear, maybe a little nuance here. Regarding the readiness, there's a product from Adriana that may start FDA process soon. Would that be viable?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you're at that point, then you're pretty far along. Absolutely, we're not. This isn't a look for licensed products necessarily. So absolutely.
Great. And then one from Carl. For the diagnostics area, do you recommend focusing on the innovation of diagnostics tech platform, or what marker, say opioids, the diagnostics tech looks at?
Maybe a little bit more context on that question, so I can.
All right, Carl, send us any more context. It looks like though, should we focus on the?
Can you read it one more time to me?
Yeah. Should we focus on the innovation of the diagnostics tech platform, or what marker the diagnostic would look at, which would be in this, like,
Okay.
for an example, opioids? Does that make sense?
It does. I thanks for reading it again. I think both. The platform's important, particularly if you have the ability to scale to different markers. But if you've just developed one marker, then you know, it's probably the marker that you want to talk about, and then how the platform allows that to happen, because the marker is probably what's going to provide the value and the impact, unless you've developed it for one marker and you have the ability to ultimately develop it for multiple markers. Then the value absolutely changes. So without knowing much more about the technology, take that into account as you're not only developing your submission, but think about how you might describe it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that pitch, very key. Okay, another, and we'll call this final question unless I see some more. What level of technical detail should we include in the pitch presentation? So let's think about, judges in the room. Will they be more on the business side, more on the technical side, or a pretty even split? What's your thought there?
It's probably going to be a pretty even split, but again, I'll go back to some of my earlier comments. You really want to drive value and impact initially, and so there has to be a balance. So here's my technology, and can I describe it to somebody who might not be a scientist or an engineer or in this space, though that's probably not the case for the judges. And then depending on its readiness level, or as you're justifying the readiness level, you've got to be able to show some level of business acumen that says, hey, I think this is a viable product and here's how I can take it there. But so again, it's a fine balancing act, and the pitch becomes difficult because you only have 5 minutes to put that together. But where I have seen people go sort of off the deep end in these challenges is that they'll just do a deep dive. I mean, it's classic. I'm a chemist by education. We love to talk about our technology, but if you spend 4 minutes doing a deep dive into every aspect of the technology, it's not going to be a favorable outcome, because you'll either lose people or you won't get to address the value, the readiness, the scalability, et cetera. So you just have to find that balance. Some of the questions will pull out an aspect of the technology if you didn't address it in your pitch.
And also of note, we will provide you with a high-level template, which includes a few bullets to consider for each of those slides, so that the judges also get a bit of an apples-to-apples look. You obviously can do with what you would like with that. You can disregard it if you want, but we recommend sort of considering it when you pull that together. But let's get to that stage. I know many of you will be in that round, and we're really excited to meet you on site. I want to thank Mike Stebbins here for all of his awesome insight, both into the consortium and into the challenge. And we wish you all the very best and look forward to seeing your submissions.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Katie.
Bye, y'all.